I'm just waiting for the 3 minute mark before I start talking. See who wants to actually show up and be here. If not, it doesn't really matter. I haven't streamed in so long. I can understand not everyone just popping in here. And normally I have a timer, but it has been a very long time since I've done a stream that was constructed, that wasn't just spontaneous. So my timer's gone. I don't know where it went. I made one from scratch. I used to use an automated timer, but I learned how to do the timer from scratch. But it's been so long, I'll have to do a review crash course on that. But yeah, the 3 minute mark. Let's make it the 4 minute. The 4 minute mark, I'll start. Just sit around if you showed up. Not, don't worry about it. Avatar looks like something from Skullgirls. It's funny. I made this character a long time ago, and I have one artist that draws it for me. I just really like his art style. So every time I need anything done for my character, I get him to do it. I've commissioned a couple of the people to draw my character, but the way he draws characters are very emotive. I just like it. It's just really nice. The art and the nice thick lines. Everything looks really nice when he draws. All of them. Like, I love all of the fucking drawings he makes. They're all great. So, guys, it's been a long time since I've done anything stream wise or podcast wise or game wise or put anything on my channel of any kind. But it's been almost a year since I've kind of stopped playing fighting games seriously. More just kind of took a more casual approach and just leaned in my chair and just smash buttons as opposed to try hard on my way to the top. But, after a year, kind of coming out of the COVID now, there's a vaccine, and a lot of things have changed since COVID happened, for better or for worse. As crazy that sounds, for better or for worse, because of the pandemic. But take it as you will. Not everyone is apparently as psyched about rollback as people who actually give a shit. But that's fine. That's their opinion, even if it's terrible. But I guess the first thing I'm gonna talk about, probably, let's talk about King of Fighters. We'll just start off with King of Fighters. Actually, let's talk about me real quick. So this last year, I've just spent doing nothing and studying loosely and playing Smite, just to get some perspective on my hobby and how much I like fighting games versus like other games. Because I've been playing other games even other than Smite, but I think I can't kick how much fun 1v1 is as opposed to playing team games. Obviously, team games have their own merits, but they just ain't really anything like being locked in a cage with one other person and only one person comes out. As much as team games can be fun, the cage fight is always more fun, and you feel great afterwards. Carrying a team makes you feel good, but the cage fight, it truly is. You can't beat that feeling. There's no way to beat that feeling. And not everyone's going to have the same opinion as me. But I feel like everyone at FGC who takes fighting games very seriously to compete, I think they just love the feeling of one man in, one man out, like constantly, or they just really like honing their skills. It's either one or the other. And I just don't get that with these other team games I've been playing. I get it. I enjoy it when everything works out. But damn, it's not a good feeling when you think you're. It's hard to decipher what is your fault and what is not your fault, because you're constantly getting negative feedback for things that may or may not be your problem, or things that were not your mistake. But you have to figure out if it was your mistake. Because if you've been playing fighting games competitively this whole time, it's pretty easy to look at your replay and be like, well, I couldn't punish this. So let me go figure out how to punish this. You look at a team game and someone's just not doing their part. Sometimes it's just not obvious enough when you're playing, or even if you're looking at a replay, to tell who was really at fault, especially if you're not a pro at it already. I mean, if you're just just a average player, there's so much negative feedback. There may or may not be your problem. Did you die because your teammates didn't ward? Did they not do a call out? Did you not do a call out? Were you not warding? Did you not play the matchup wrong? Did you not play the guy in the jungle's matchup wrong? Did you play the guy, let's just say it's just a shooter, like were you not paying attention to the weapon layout or the weapons they chose, what they picked up, weapon spawns, anything? Like there's just so much to worry about. And it's really hard to, outside of, did I land on my shots? Like outside of that, it's really hard to look at your game and be like, yeah, I did everything right. Unless you just, crazy or just so positive. You're so full of yourself that you're just one of those guys that blame everything around them, which I can see that's the appeal of team games as well. You can pass the blame and you can live in La La Land and you don't ever have to grow, because then you have this La La Land you can always partake in where you're the best and everyone else around you is just a bunch of idiots. Which, granted, that scenario is common and is actually not too far fetched that does happen. But people that stay at the below average level in these team games and are a hindrance to their team, they just don't realize that they're the ones they're that guy, and they just can't tell because there's no negative feedback that directly correlates to them outside of them missing every ability or shot. So long as they hit every ability or shot that they had, then they, in their mind, are just like, I didn't do anything wrong. I hit all my basics. I hit every shot. I did all my abilities right. I got the power weapon. I played my character. I built my character right. And it just turns out that their focus was not where it needs to be. Their positioning was bad, or they didn't understand the map. Their macro is terrible. There's just so many things that could go wrong. And in fighting games, it's just so much easier. Replay channel, boom. Didn't punish Vanderbringer. Didn't punish Shinko. Didn't punish Metsu Hadoken. Didn't punish. Didn't punish. What's another move that's like, what the hell? Didn't punish weapon flipping technique. Didn't punish Shizumaru's weapon flipping technique. Didn't punish Ragnar's Gauntlet Hades. Didn't punish I don't know, anything. Things like that. It's just, that's the difference between fighting games to me and team games. Nothing really wrong with it. It's just, I think it's just funny, because when I play team games, I hear people say fighting games are so hard. I can't understand how you could play those games. And then the fighting game players, I think if they're aware, they'll be like, well, team games are hard. I don't know how you guys play this shit. I can't ever win consistently, and I don't know what the hell's going on. And it truthfully is, the things that each player values as easy or difficult are completely different. And because of that, they both acknowledge their game is incredibly difficult. Unless, you have some kind of ego and you're like, my game's the toughest thing around. And at this point, after playing fighting games, I used to think fighting games were the hardest shit ever. But after playing team games, I realized that carrying a shitty team is impossible. Fighting games, you could always improve, but actually carrying a trash team is impossible. So to me, that makes team games almost like harder by default, because you cannot. There are just scenarios that you cannot win, and there's nothing that you can do about it. So I call that much harder. But anyway, that's my rant about what I've been doing. Studying for my certifications, which I've been really lazy about, and honestly, I gotta get on that. I've been playing team games exclusively, and a little bit of Monster Hunter, and I've been watching a lot of fighting game stuff. Like I've been constantly watching fighting people do things in fighting games. I haven't been playing fighting games. I've been playing Plus R a little bit, but I haven't really been playing fighting games at all. You know, a little odd. Hey man, you want to play a set? Yeah, sure. You know, once in a while. No practicing at all. So here I am. I'm back. I'm gonna start practicing again, and it's mostly because on the horizon, we have a lot of good things on the horizon. So there's no reason to not try now. Only because it's like we have the reckoning of the FGC finally coming. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're talking about the FGC as a whole and how things have shaped up. King of Fighters. We're going to talk about SNK first. Obviously, if you know me, there's a reason for this. Because if you know me, you know how much I love Samurai Showdown. So by extension, I have to talk about King of Fighters. Regardless if I like King of Fighters, we gotta talk about King of Fighters. King of Fighters looks pretty good. Pretty good visually. We don't really know too much about the gameplay, but visually, it's a vast improvement from King of Fighters 14, which looks straight up in alpha when they revealed that trailer. I mean, the character poses were locked. Graphics were terrible. There was no shading on anything. Models looked old. It was a really bad show. That first trailer made everyone like cringe. It was ugly. That game was ugly as hell. On the trailer. Obviously, on the release, the game still didn't look that good. But, you know, once they patched the shaders in, it was passable. It didn't look like a game of this era, but it was passable. But it was ugly as hell on release. And the online was trash. Garbage. But the game did come out with a lot of characters. I'll give them that. It was super unbalanced because of that. But we did get a lot of characters in that game on release. Now, new King of Fighters. We don't know how many characters are coming out, which I don't really care that much about that. I'm more concerned with more important things like quality. 50 characters in a game is cool, but truly the amount of characters does not make the quality of the game any better. You really want valuable characters. You want characters that are very different from each other, or bring different play styles, bring different like angles. If you have too many characters in the game, it's really hard to create different characters that do different things that don't overlap in a way that makes one of them do the same thing as the other and not just inferior in every capacity. But King of Fighters, new one looks great. They clearly used the Samurai Showdown engine that they developed, or I don't know how they did it. I don't know. They probably took a page of the. I don't know. I'm not a game designer, obviously. So whatever, they essentially just copied the style of Samurai Showdown in terms of how they develop these models, or it's the old models and they just the new paint on it is just Samurai Showdown paint, which looks great. I love that look. I mean, I'm a big fan of Street Fighter 4, so that design to me is great. It's timeless to me. The issue with King of Fighters, though, is sadly that game is owned by SNK, which, as petty as that sounds, SNK has released really bad games. They're not bad games. They've released terrible products. That's a better way to say it. SNK is not known for quality. At least not in this decade. I would say SNK in the 90s and early 2000s, quality. And it's not because they are quality, because they were revolutionizing everything, but more like quality as in they were up to par with every other fighting game in terms of quality, right? You're not losing anything. You buy a SNK game, it's gonna be probably as good as, I don't know, like any other fighting game. At least bare minimum, you'll have the characters, the training mode, the arcade ending, and maybe some time trials or some, gallery or sound test, right? Most fighting games up until 2013, maybe, didn't really. Well, I mean, that's not true. Soul Calibur kind of have more go. That's a lie. Most fighting games, though, didn't have more than that, and every now and then you had fighting games with more content. But the norm of fighting games was definitely arcade, time trial, versus options, and then color edit mode and then like some gimmick, right? Some gimmick. That's pretty much it. There's nothing crazy about that. That's just fighting games for like 20 years. That's 20 years of fighting games. Now that's not acceptable. King of SNK, the way they make their fighting games is almost the same as it has always been, and never has improved what they have. They changed the fighting game mechanics. They reworked the characters a little bit, tiny bit, every game, just a little bit. And they update the graphics a little bit. No, obviously they didn't even do that before. They used the same thing for like a long time. Like their sprites. I think they used the same like design all the way to King of Fighters like 11. And that was, I can't remember when that came out. I think it's like 2006, 2005 maybe. But anyway, SNK isn't known for being innovative in terms of what their game does. And they're for sure not known for having good net play. And that's an issue. Because King of Fighters cannot be this. It cannot be what they have made before. It cannot be Samurai Showdown. Samurai Showdown, unluckily, hopefully, but also unluckily, will be the last game they ever make like this. Because people are not going to want to keep buying these SNK games unless you're a hardcore SNK fan, which I love SNK as much as the next guy, but you can't expect to retain anyone with a title that's stuck in 1995 or 97 in terms of quality. And that's where we're at now with King of Fighters. King of Fighters there's no indication it's going to be like this, by the way. But the problem is that recently there was a developer. They did the developer roundtable with all the fighting games, and Guilty Gear was talking about rollback, and they were talking about the different things. And SNK right now, Samurai Showdown does not work in my eyes. So the silence from one of the developers during that roundtable was not good. And it kind of sent a lot of people overboard because they just want their game to work desperately because they're in fear of Strive. There's nothing wrong with, okay, so here's the problem, essentially. King of Fighters is about to possibly, this is all speculation, but we've seen, obviously, the SNK fans are going to say, you guys don't even know what this product's going to be. But we do have a 20-year track record. And seeing Strive, even if I hate the lobby, and I don't like the lobby design, the game looks amazing. And the rollback works really good. Now we look at SNK game that came out last year. Samurai Showdown. It wasn't last year. It was 2 years ago, maybe. What is it, like a year and a half now? That game is awful. Samurai Showdown is awful. And it's messed up because I love Samurai Showdown. It's my favorite fighting game. My favorite fighting game to play. it is crazy that game I like more than Vampire Savior to play. Because I love Vampire Savior. But Samurai Showdown, the new one, is my favorite fighting game to play. It has everything I love in a fighting game, and it's balanced in a way that I really can enjoy it. But I am not going to sit here and be like these other guys. Y'all know who they are. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm not having a side eye on King of Fighters. Because if you look at Samurai Showdown with our 4 colors and our unselectable OST and our non-functioning lobbies and our player 2 only soundtrack and our non-functioning ghost mode, you can't expect me to sit here idly by and then be like these other, oh, well, you know, I have faith in SNK to do the, dude. Are we, you can't just accept this. You can't have no doubt. Look at King of Fighters 14. That game was trash for like a whole year and a half. People only want to bring, when I bring up King of Fighters 14, a lot of people are like, well, the online's pretty good. It's like, first of all, it's delayed. It's already fucking trash. Let's just get that out of the way. But if we look at it how it was on release, game looked ugly as sin. There's no costumes, which that took a while, but you know what? Well, let's just ignore skins. Forgot I ever said that. Skins are irrelevant to this conversation. Game was ugly as sin. The net play was horrendous on launch. It was horrendous. Terrible. People only remember the game at the end. That is 3 years later. 4 years later. People are not playing that game anymore as they were when the game came out. You have 2 weeks tops to retain new players or new people. Not even just players, people. You cannot afford to wait 3 years to make a game that is functioning or even like appealing. I may be exaggerating. Maybe it's not 3 years. Maybe 2 years. But I played for a year. That game was horribly balanced. That game was fucked up balance-wise, which is to be expected. There's no arcade port, so there's no testing period. And it's SNK. They got to balance 50 characters. I don't trust them to do it that fast. Like, that's fine. The game was busted on release, just like all fighting games. So at that point, if a game is broken, like, it's not broken. I guess it's not fair. The game was super unbalanced. Like, I'm not going to say that, but I guess broken would mean that there's just stuff that you cannot outplay. But the game was so unbalanced that why would someone want to bear with a game that doesn't work online very well or at all? And the character selection is very limited because there's just some characters that don't even need to spend meter to kill. Well, they spend meter to kill, but it's infinitely less than everyone else. Juggling with no meter. I played for a year. Like, I'm not a super KOF 14 guy. I can just tell you from the perspective of someone who was trying to get into KOF 14. But, this sounds familiar, don't it? Remember KOF 13? KOF 13 released. I'm not even, you know why? People are going to say, well, KOF 13 was more of a complete game. The characters were all fleshed. Let me stop you right there. KOF 13, to me, is not a standalone title. KOF 13 is built upon KOF 12, which, by the way, both have absolutely dog shit internet. SNK has single-handedly been responsible for some of the worst net play experiences of my life. Consistently. When I bought KOF 12, I threw that shit in the trash. That game cut out moves, small roster, I don't. It had no arcade mode if I remember correctly. It just had a time trial mode if I remember correctly. Just a time trial mode, non-functioning net play, and then we got KOF 13, which is $60, and they added some more characters. It was more developed, and it functioned better, but it wasn't. When did King? I can't remember when Killer Instinct came out, but I don't think it was too far behind KOF or before. I can't remember that specifically. But if you look at Killer Instinct, which had a small roster, they have, as they built the game, it became a much bigger product, much more complete, more things to do, everything. KOF 13 never became that. It never even did more than that to begin with. And I think the reason for that is that even though if people wanted to get into KOF 13, let's just say they watched the Evo where KOF 13 was in, and they were wild. Like me, I was wild. I thought that Evo with KOF 13 was amazing. It fucking blew my mind. I was like, this game looks hype. What are you going to do, online? Dude, how are you supposed to motivate yourself to compete when, obviously, if you don't have a local, you have to practice online. And online is absurdly terrible. And we're going to get, if any, I'm not a big time content creator, so obviously I'm not going to get the traction as those guys are, so I'm not going to probably get as many people that come in like, oh, I liked it. I thought it was okay. I could play my friend in Cancun. I don't give a fuck if you can play your friend in Cancun. I couldn't play the guy that lived down the street. There's something wrong with these SNK products. It's funny too, because now I can't play another guy that lives not like less than 20 minutes away. It's Samurai Showdown without lagging like crazy. They are not putting effort into the net play that is worth investing in their fighting games. This is not 2009. This is not 2006. Not 2003. This is 2021. Cannot make fighting games. It's absurd. Samurai Showdown existence as for net played functionality is absolutely absurd. It makes me question if these guys that develop these games, obviously they don't get the final say on everything. But is there no one that oversees these games that does make decisions? Do they not play other games? Do they only play their own games? Because if you look at any game that is not a fighting game and look at how their online functions in any capacity, there is no way you can come out of that and say, ours is just fine. Can you imagine if you played Overwatch or, I don't know, Modern Warfare and everyone has to play versus each other and then everyone has to connect with the late-based netcode? What kind of, that wouldn't work. And not only would it not work, but everyone would dumpster that company on media, on social media, in their forums, everywhere. They would dumpster Blizzard. They would dumpster Activision. Or who makes this Blizzard? I can't remember who makes the new Call of Duty game. Either way, point is, fighting games get this pass by their community, either from nostalgia reasons, but the greater casual community does not value or they don't play the games for the net play enough to hold them accountable, or at least take off the rose-colored glasses to at least look at the game objectively and say, this is not acceptable. And I think, obviously, all games have those kind of people that will just take it as it is, but fighting games suffer the worst because our game, we have to be so perfect to do little things, just little basic functions of the game. Very basic, just defending. Very basic. The late netcode, throw that shit in the trash. You ain't just defending everything. Deflect. Throw that shit in the trash. You gonna react? Fuck that shit. Throw that shit in the trash. You're gonna have to guess. That's what you're gonna have to do. They can't do this. So when King of Fighters showed us the trailer, they didn't mention anything rollback. Obviously, if there was any doubt that SNK isn't aware of how important rollback is, you would begin to wonder who's not telling them this. But at the same time, maybe they don't feel like it's a selling point that their game works, but unluckily for us, it is. Because Japan, in general, has the worst fighting games in terms of net play. So it is a selling point. As messed up as it should be a selling point. You wouldn't think this game works online as a selling point to put in the trailer. But when you put out the new version of Samurai Showdown 5 Special and the new version of 2002 Ultimate Match, and you put Code Mystics rollback, and it was like, fuck yeah, we're buying it. Don't you think that now that is a selling point? That don't, like, you can't. There's so many context clues for this to be like, we should probably show this. So them not showing it to us, them not talking about it at the developer roundtable, brought us to here, where everyone started messaging King Oda. I don't know if they messaged Oda, but I know they tagged SNK Play More, and they made a hashtag for King of Fighters with rollback, and it worked. They responded saying that we are working on it. We've been in the process of doing this, but there's nothing final, so we can't say for sure we're gonna have it, right? Which obviously is a trash answer to begin with, because we're not fucking around here. Like, if you don't make this shit, no one's gonna play it, because you know why? Guilty Gear Strive. Now, if you're a fucking King of Fighters fan, fine. You'll play it. You'll play anything they make, obviously. Buy the visual novel, you buy the keychain, you'll play for 3 months and then never play again. Because you can't, even if you wanted to. You can't play anyone online. But Strive represents something to me in terms of accountability. You know what? Let's get this out of the way. I do not believe for a second that they had rollback developed for King of Fighters. Not even a little bit. Because this exact scenario happened with Strive, where we like bombarded them with rollback conversation for a long time, and they had to go back and do it again. And I remember someone said, well, they were probably already working on, dog, if they were working on rollback from the get-go, they would have not released the beta with delayed netcode the first time. They admittedly had to go back and add it. So SNK, to me, is pulling the Arxis without admitting that they did not begin this at the start. So everyone who is an SNK fan saw this and saw it. See, you guys just won't shut up about it. Like, you guys will not just shut up about this. They're already working on it. Y'all should have faith in SNK. First off, fuck you. There is absolutely no reason why we should have faith in them in terms of doing the right thing, because they literally done nothing that is up to date when it comes to standards. And your faith is literally the faith. If you like King of Fighters, I've liked King of Fighters for a very long time. Obviously, I got into it the same way everyone else. If you play Capcom games, not everyone else got into it like this, but I played two ways. One of my first King of Fighters game was in a laundromat on Neo Geo Cab. And then I also played CVS2. Now, I didn't really care for the King of Fighters that much. But then as time went on, I eventually got King of Fighters 2003. And due to my friend, I am playing the game, and I was like, damn, this game is pretty cool. Obviously, I'm a kid. I don't care about balance or anything. I'm just playing the game. I'm like, these characters are pretty cool. And that's really the appeal of King of Fighters, is their character design. Character design is amazing. They have a lot of really iconic characters. Honestly, I think SNK, if they just design clothes, they'd probably be really good at that. If they just make character design for people, the clothing line would be amazing. But SNK, I played King of Fighters a lot growing up, and my problem with that is that I have I wanted to play like the way I did Street Fighter 4, but with other people, right? I wanted to play. I was very, very much a big fan of Street Fighter 4, despite it being the late netcode. By the way, we're gonna get back to that in a second. Street Fighter 4 I really fell in love with that in the aspect of competing with people online. And I was like, man, I can't wait to get King of Fighters 12. I love the characters from King of Fighters, 2003. I'm hoping they're in this game. That's my I'm a 19-year-old, 20-year-old thoughts. I'm like, I can't wait to play this game. I got the game, it's fucking unplayable. I literally threw it away the second day. It's like, I was so disappointed. I'm like, what is this? And my issue is that by then, I already knew rollback existed, by the way, because I have been playing GGPO and I've been playing Super Street Fighter 2 HD Remix, which, y'all may hate or love that game. I know the community of Street Fighter 2 does not like it because whatever, but I competed online with that. I didn't compete in tournaments in person, so it didn't matter to me about the balance changes that much. I'm just like, oh, well, I love Street Fighter 2. I'll play HD Remix. There's changes to it? Okay. Like, that was my opinion. So, that rollback had already existed for that long. Rollback had been in existence for a long time, even before then. But rollback, as in GGPO, was already created. So, getting Street Fighter 4 delayed, I didn't know no better, because I knew that Street Fighter 2 felt better, but I didn't know exactly why. But come King of Fighters 12, 13, Marvel 3, things like that. Like, that era, I'm just like, why is this not in everything? Why do we still have this trash? And then getting 12 and 13 back to back, and they both, and Blaze Blue, all consecutively, all delayed netcode, I just couldn't understand it. And now we're here in 2020. See, people, the whole reason I'm bringing this up is that the whole discourse is great. Y'all got what y'all want. They said it. Now shut up. Dude, I'm fucking 30. I'm 30. I'm old. Well, not obviously, if you're older than me, don't take that personally. I feel old. Fighting game wise, old. And some people are like, that's not that old. I've been playing since. Dude, let me have this. I feel old. You know why I feel old? Because I'm finally on the third generation of console that we're gonna be possibly playing on. So it makes me feel old as hell. It makes me feel old as hell because this is the third console generation. So this is the third console generation, and we still have delayed. 3 console generations still got delayed. That tech is gone in terms of every other game, but here we are. Japanese developers don't do it. So when you guys who are SNK fans say have faith in SNK and stop bitching, well, go fuck yourself. Because we've been dealing with this for so long. The technology is there. And we tried being quiet and believing. Social media did not exist back then. We just got like a one-sided information. Developer put it in the magazine. Oh, this is this. You get excited for this. All right. We'll do all. And then, as time progressed, we had more interaction online with interviews. Well, they said this, and we had more interviews in tournaments. Like, this is how the game's developing. Social media is now strong enough that we can actually reach out to these developers and mass tag them, but they have to look at this. They have to see our feedback. Before, whatever feedback they got was a control group. This is not a control group. This is a bunch of rampaging animals on social media that can say whatever the hell they want with any level of toxicity. So don't fucking tell me to shut the fuck up about rollback. You need to shut the fuck up. Because at the end of the day, you're going to get my Shinrai Inui. You're going to get fucking Kyle. You're going to get fucking Iori. And you're going to be happy. But for the rest of us that want to play King of Fighters with our friends that don't live down the street, or even down the street, or if we love the game, we want to promote people, promote the game to people, like, Why would you think we're going to sit idly by? It makes absolutely no sense. We want what's best for this company. People love these characters. They want to see it in the future. But as it is, you know what your future is, SNK fans? If you don't fucking let us complain about rollback, your fucking game's going to become a gacha game. And that's just all it's going to ever be. They already have it. It's probably successful as hell. If they see the success of that gacha game and the fighting games don't sell because they suck ass, that's all you're going to have. A gacha game. And if that's enough for you, I'm happy for you. But for me, it's not enough. I want to play Owlheed. I want to play Billy Kane. I have characters I love that I've been growing up with for a long time. I don't want to buy a gacha game. I want to fight. I think that's the end of this segment, essentially. I've said what I needed to say. Because it's absurd. As much as a fan of you are, you cannot sit there and pretend SNK hasn't been fucking around for a long time. And I love SNK. Don't get me wrong. They made my favorite fighting game, Samurai Showdown. But I'm ashamed to call it my favorite fighting game. I cannot hand someone Samurai Showdown and be like, you need to play this game. Because they're going to fucking kill me. They're going to go home. They're going to see one guy to play in Korea. Going to play like ass. And then they're going to come kill me in my house. And they're like, don't ever bring this shit in my home again. Why would I ever do that? Why would you give me this game? There's no one to play. And the one guy I could play was trash. Anyway, that's enough of that. That's that. I want what's best for SNK. I want what's best for them. I want them to be around. I want to be 40 and 50. And then my hypothetical son that doesn't exist, hopefully will be like 10 years old. Hopefully I don't wait too long. But hopefully he'll be like 10 years old. And then King of Fighters fucking 20 comes out. And he's got rollback netcode, a fucking good storyline that isn't a bunch of fucking slideshows and like a small animated feature. And he's like, hey, Dad, you want to play this game? I love this game. It does everything. It teaches me how to play and everything. I'm like, you know what, son? Let's play this game. But you know what? As it looks like now, my son's going to have to show me his fucking phone. You're like, hey, Dad, I rolled and I got Kaio. I don't want that to be the future. That's a trash future. Anyway, that's it. Let's talk about Samurai Showdown. So Samurai Showdown got a third season, despite the son of a bitch not working. Just nuts. Should have took the money that he got for that season and made the same bitch to work. But the new season is very interesting. A lot of the balance changes are very interesting. They cut off, Shizamaru's legs. It looks good. There's some changes that people are upset about, justifiably, but it's definitely a fresh look at the game. I will never know what it looks like because the online sucks and it's unplayable, and I have to play Parsec to play it. But, if it ever becomes playable in a state that's acceptable online, I'll be there for sure. Till then, I'll play my roommate. I'll play my friend. I'll play my roommate, play my friend, close by. Roommate, friend. But fucking Nippon 45 from fucking Japan or Europe. Sorry, bro. Fucking Uchiha fan 85. We are never playing Samurai Showdown. There is no way. That game is absolutely absurd. Like, I need to use a different word. I've said it absurd. That game is disastrous in terms of what it could have been. The game had the biggest possible positive showing it could have at EVO, especially for an SNK title. Let's just get that out of the way, especially for an SNK title. And for as busted as it was, I think people liked it. But over time, people stopped playing for a reason. It's not because the game is bad. I mean, the game's got problems. Every fighting game's got problems. But it wasn't because it was bad. The fighting game was bad. The online shit was trash. I mean, I know this is like ancient history now or whatever. Just like the KOF 14 goes, yeah, it was playable at the end. Yeah, well, you know what? I bet you didn't have to wait in the lobby with everyone lined up, and then you guys play and then you guys play each other, and then it kicks all y'all back out to neutral position in the lobby, and then y'all have to work it out with each other who's next in line. That's the state of Samurai Showdown on release. It was terrible. That play was terrible. It seemed passable because there were so many people playing. But outside of that reason, as soon as the people started disappearing, the typical, netcode, delayed netcode issues just, they show up like they always do. I call it the fighting game cycle, the Japanese fighting game cycle. Game comes out, everyone plays it. This isn't that bad. That plays fine. 2 months later, people start quitting. There's not enough content. Maybe people are competitive, or they finish the story mode, which takes like a week, maybe. Not even. If you're good at fighting games, you get done in a day. But they stop playing. Less people to play. Netcode gets worse. People stop playing because the netcode's bad. They stop playing. So then you gotta play people even further away. The experience gets even worse. Those guys stop playing. You gotta play people even further away. Gets even worse. There's no one left to play in lobbies. Those guys stop playing because they can't get games easy anymore, so they stop playing. That's the true cycle of Japanese fighting games that aren't named Tekken and Street Fighter. Obviously, those guys are blessed in terms of how dedicated those fans are, but most Japanese fighting games for the longest time followed this cycle, except for maybe Street Fighter. Just because, Street Fighter's had Honcho. Tekken did fine for a little while, but obviously that fell off. This new Tekken resurgence is pretty nice. I think that game is the only one that, technically does not meet the criteria of that, despite it being the same issues. But Samurai Showdown could have been so much more. It could have been big, could have been popular. So getting a Season 3 in this game, while I should be excited, I'm here and I can't even enjoy that. I can't enjoy this package of cool new things I got. It's almost like if they were like, hey, here's Season 3, and they hung it above a lava pit in a cage surrounded by thorns. Like the cage is made of thorns over a lava pit. And for me to get to it, I have to beat the 8th world in Super Mario Bros. 3 with 1 health. With one life. And then when I finally get to it, I open up Season 3. It's great, but then it shoots me anyway. That's what playing that game online feels like to enjoy Season 3. Even if I got to the point where I got the treasure, it's just going to shoot me. There's a gun inside that just automatically just left to shoot me once I'm done with it. So, that's Samurai Showdown Season 3. Interestingly enough, if y'all didn't know, there is a Guilty Gear character that's getting added. I think it's going to be Biken. I think most people believe it's Biken. Makes sense. Hopefully, I feel bad for Biken players because now they're stuck in another shitty game that has no fucking net play. Exalt is not shitty, obviously. It's pretty good in terms of gameplay and story and training and all that stuff. But, they didn't want to go from delayed netcode to delayed netcode that doesn't work even a little. But Season 3 looks good. I'll never know. So we're just going to be done with Samurai Showdown right there. That's the end of that conversation. Let's talk about Strive. Strive is, the more I ruminate on Strive, I think we have to state the obvious. The game looks amazing, right? It looks amazing. Best looking fighting game. Presentation looks amazing. I'm not a fan of some of the gameplay decisions they made. And it is a beta, so these things can change. But to be honest, I'm not. The changes they have made to Strive have always been to limit and not to enhance. during its entire life cycle. Most fighting games these days, it seems like they just add things to limit near the end of as they develop. They add more consistent, like more what's the word I'm looking for? Um, contingencies on how to kill your opponent. Because I guess this is their way of making games more accessible, which is not the right way to do it. But that's a whole nother podcast. But I don't think Strive for me is gonna fix a lot of problems that I had with the gameplay. Being able to block in the air, not very good without meter. Like you can block in the air without meter, that's a big problem to me. Gatlings being reduced, that's unnecessary. I don't know why you would do that unless you just don't want pressure to be good, or you want to limit pressure so people don't die fast. Which maybe they think the damage is too high, but if the damage is too high, then reel the damage back and then give people the Gatlings back, because I think people would rather be more creative with their offense than blowing someone up in 2 hits. Which obviously, if you want to play that, then go play Samurai Showdown. Not that you can, but that would be the way you went. But I had fun. I was griping because of the changes, but I had fun. The Roman cancel system, I'm not really a fan, but it's different enough for me to be okay with it. I like that you can dash with the Roman cancel. That's interesting. I like that you can YRC to defensively Roman cancel. They did their best to really simplify offense defense. They made it really centered. They really made this game like you have to get 50% meter to pressure your opponent consistently. Not consistently. I guess if you're not like obviously there was like 3 characters in that game that were pretty ridiculous. But for the most part, I can see what they wanted. Roman cancels were pretty neat. I don't like them that much, but I think the concept is there. I can be okay with that. The Gatlings need work. Being able to block in the air is a big no-no without meter. Like, why would you? You need to make it so you can have meter. People just want up backing all day. A lot of the characters, some of them seem similar enough that it's okay. Some of them seem completely different. Up to obviously, character loyalists will either have to be the make or break on that. If they want to try to cling on to the character and it's not what they want, they'll have to move on. This is not a good feeling for a lot of people. It's not a good feeling for me. I don't like doing that. I like my characters being intact and then having more in the next game. But like I said, this game really is taking that new kind of. No one likes being compared to Street Fighter V, but when I look at like newer fighting games, they take things away and then limit how you approach things in order to make things easier to digest for new players. And it's not for the best. It's not good. It's not how you make people stay. The way you make people stay is make it so they can play the damn thing. But I think this is just a trend of fighting games currently. Take things away, make things more streamlined. Supposedly, in theory, that's what they want. And then hopefully there's retention. Now, hopefully they revert that stuff and we have more freedom. But I don't think they will. I don't. If that's their vision, they're not going to do it. There may be balance changes in a year or 2, maybe, where they're like, well, you know what? Upbacking does seem pretty ridiculous. Let's make, after a year and a half of people upbacking, let's make sure that you can hit people out there with your anti-airs. Maybe, in that scenario. Things like that. The Gatling being more free, I don't think they'll go back on that. That was a deliberate design decision to make sure that you cannot link all your Gatlings together, which is crazy to me. I don't see why they would do that, but it all goes back to limiting people's options in order to make things appear more streamlined. But that was Strive. Strive, when it worked, it was beautiful. Yeah, everyone was going in and out because the beta was dropping randomly, but when the rollback was working, it was flawless. It was really good look for Guilty Gear. Everyone who's an Arxis fan is very happy with that, at least. Now, whether they like the game or not, that's up to them. We haven't played the game. It's just a beta. There's no telling what the game will shape up to be a month or 2 in or 3 months in. But for the most part, I think everyone had a playable experience online, and they came out of it pretty happy. They may see things they want to change, but they're probably happy. Now, they delayed it a month, probably for the best. They probably got blasted for how terrible their lobby system was. Their lobby system was really bad. You would have to find someone, stance up with them. It would send him somewhere else after you stance up with him. You to go back over there and stance up again. It was really bad. It was one of the most unenjoyable lobbies I've ever had. And I know they're doing it to try to be creative to like appeal to casual players. But at the end of the day, casual players just want to hit the button and play. They just want to hit the button, see the queue, and play. That is more fun and interesting than any simulated nonsense they could come up with walking around and trying to stance up on people. And I know they're not going to undo it, but I hope they don't get too hurt if they add a system where you just queue up. I hope they don't get too hurt when no one's in the damn lobbies. Maybe there'll be a lobby for like player rooms and people want to play each other specifically for a long time, but people just randomly queuing to play each other, I hope they don't get too hurt. Because realistically, why would anyone want to do that thing? Why would anyone want to walk around, line up with someone, get sent somewhere else, line up with them again, play one game, one guy crouches and like says, "Oh man," and then you got to find them again, and then we'll sit there and then fight again. Like, why would you want to do that? But I'm pretty sure they're gonna rectify that some kind of way. But I guess the next thing to talk about, I guess, is there's not really much to say about Strive in terms of that. Look great. Played great. I don't like some of the side decisions, but it is what it is. Street Fighter 5 has got an update. Crazy. I thought I don't know why they keep pumping blood in that game. Not for the reason you may think. I just don't know why they are putting money into new characters when the net play is pretty much unanimously known for being really bad, and they are aware. They know it's bad. You can't intentionally patch out a patch that fixed the net code, by the way. It fixed it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. It was fixed. The crossplay didn't work so good because the PS4 can't have the patch. But it was fixed on PC. PC to PC, absolutely amazing. It wasn't like the best rollback ever, but you went from bullshit to like functioning rollback. So they know about it. I know Street Fighter 5 players are probably shaking their fucking heads right now. They're just like, Capcom, please. I don't want 12. I want you to move a couple numbers around. But sucks for them. They have to make a decision at some point. They have to keep supporting the company that really don't give a fuck about them. Or at least they don't that division of it. Monster Hunter's amazing, right? Resident Evil's amazing. Street Fighter's a shithole. Which is weird, it's the opposite. Because when I was playing Street Fighter 4 was the great game, and all the other games were trash. But now it's the opposite. Street Fighter 5 is like, damn. And then all the other games are like, damn. But what can they do? They can either just pray and hold on that Capcom openly acknowledges that it's not working and they're going to pay a guy to move a couple numbers around. Or they just keep playing the game and the state it's in because they're just so used to it not working that it's fuck it. We're used to it not working. We're just going to keep playing. Fuck it. But there's nothing to say about the update. I mean, they revealed the characters. They revealed Dan. I mean, they didn't reveal Dan, but they're showing off the characters, right? Rose is coming. They put 11 in. Dan's in the game. I don't really care. They're just reimagined versions of their old characters. Whether they're good or bad, it's just up to how much they will to meld them into the fucking Street Fighter 5 system, which I don't like anyway. So to me, I don't really care about the state of Street Fighter 5 that much because to me, it shouldn't even got the season. It should have got the shit fixed. It's the same scenario with Samurai Showdown. Why are you giving me a new season? We can't even enjoy the game. There's people that still like and play this game despite everything Capcom does to them, and they still won't fix it. As much as I hate Street Fighter V, I feel bad for my friends. I'm like, damn, you still playing? I hope they fix it. I mean, y'all are troopers. Like, I hope they do it for you, bro. Because what is this, the 6th year? Like, they know about it. They just choose to ignore it at this point, that's absurd. It's like, it's how they know about it. There's no way they don't. They just still don't do anything. So there's not much to say. I feel bad for them. I hope they get the game fixed. Hopefully Street Fighter 6 doesn't suffer the same fate. I'm definitely not going to buy Street Fighter 6. I'm going to let my friends test that for me, and then I'll see if I want to buy it, which is, I never thought I would say that. I mean, Street Fighter was my first fighting game. I love Street Fighter. I played them all. All of them growing up. 6, I'm not buying that day one. I got to see them actually make the game work. But, yeah, that's Street Fighter 5. Hopefully it gets fixed. If it don't, I mean, people have been playing this game this whole time, and it never worked in the first place correctly. So, there you go. There you go with that. Tekken 7, though, is in a weird spot for me. Because Tekken 7 is getting another update with characters. Like that game needs more fucking characters. But my biggest problem with Tekken 7 isn't that it's getting an update with characters. It's that it has delayed netcode. And Harada insists it has rollback. Now, whether it truly has rollback or not, maybe I'm just not a game dev. I'm not knowledgeable enough. But if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And there's nothing about Tekken that rolls back. It stutters, it freezes, it locks up, it does everything but roll back. So when Harada is insistent that the rollback is 3, and it has rollback, and you can play with rollback, and that just means your shit ain't getting rollback, dog. I feel bad for you guys. You may not even get rollback in Tekken 8 or 9, because if Harada doesn't know and doesn't insist upon actually putting real rollback in, y'all are fucked forever. Because that means he would rather insist that he knows how true rollback functions than fix the game. So you can get the next season pass for Tekken 7. You get your 75th character to learn another matchup, learn 100 moves, and try to block that shit. But I mean, most of y'all that play Tekken really don't enjoy playing Tekken online. Like, there's no way. The only people that enjoy playing Tekken online are the people who are like maybe below average or average, and they can just put the strings in, and whatever happens, happens. But anyone who's trying to like enjoy Tekken at like a slightly above average level, they are definitely not fans, because you cannot play that game online the way you play it offline in any sort of way. Like, not even close. It's really big difference, because things that are really punishable or barely punishable go from being launched to no punishes at all. Or things that are not real mix-ups become true mix-ups, because you cannot block in time. They improved the net play somehow, but it's still not rollback. You're still not getting that true experience that y'all deserve in Tekken. Or you need that experience to play at your maximum potential. Until then, y'all are just putting strings on each other and just making guesses every 3 seconds and hoping that's the right answer. Because you can try to react the best you can, but you really are just guessing. Because the online is just not acceptable for a game like that. That game is hard as fuck. I'm done playing that game. It's not even a terrible game. It's just I don't like that game. I don't like how it works. So I'm just not playing it. But I'm not going to sit here and say Tekken is terrible. I think there's obviously appeal to it. It's just not for me. So I feel bad for those guys. I feel bad for the guys that actually put the work in and they can't play online effectively, because there's just no way to do it. Dude throws snake. Fucking Law throws his snake edge out. Damn near unblockable online. Should be launched every time. But that mix-up is gross online. Offline, not so much. But that's all that is. That game is either doomed. That game is possibly doomed forever. I feel bad for saying it, but until Harada realizes that rollback that he has or does not have is not what people want, y'all are fucked. Oh, it is what it is. It's terrible to say, but it is what it is. Dragon Ball update. Everyone's kind of like in a doom and gloom because they feel like this is the end of their game life cycle, which honestly, most people that play in Dragon Ball, if they're new to fighting games, which luckily it's called Dragon Ball. If it wasn't called Dragon Ball, it may not have survived this long. But despite how terrible the online is, the game delivers that experience that Dragon Ball fans want, on top of actually being a solid fighting game. So veterans and newcomers can like it, despite its shortcomings. Like the lobby system is terrible. The fucking training is trash. The everything is pretty trash in that game, except for just maybe the fighting itself. I don't like the fighting that much, but I'm not a fan of team games, or not even that. No, I'm not really a fan of team games, I guess, in general. I never really stuck with team games. But that game is probably getting its final update, and I think a lot of newer players are just not used to this, and they're kind of feeling like, damn, this is the end. And, maybe they wouldn't feel that way if they had rollback, because I think the reason why they feel this way is because Strive is going to get rollback, and because it's funny how all these conversations lead back to rollback. It's because we can't play our fucking games. But the game not having rollback makes everyone worried because they feel like their community is going to be split between Strive and Dragon Ball. And it's going to go through that phase where the games will just be unplayable because people are too far from each other to be consistently able to play each other, and then rank it, and then it'll be like a domino effect where there's like barely anyone playing. But I can see that being a concern. If they had rollback, maybe that wouldn't be a problem, right? Because even if the community of Dragon Ball got split, then the people who were left would just be able to play each other with no issue, right? So if people don't like Strive after like 4 months, they just go back to Dragon Ball. It'll be just as lively as it was because they will still be able to play each other. But if the community splits, this happens to all communities in fighting games, except for like Street Fighter, I guess. But when a new game comes out and the fighting game players like go to jump on the new shit, when it splits the community and you're left with like way less people and the late code and all you guys the late net code, the people that are left probably can't play each other very well. And so those people end up just getting tired of that shit and then moving on to the next game. So if they're afraid of that, I understand. So they probably really want rollback. And there's no guarantee Arx is going to put rollback in that game. These older games, sadly, if it's not really old, the odds of getting rollback in your game are very low. I want rollback in Street Fighter 4. So I can play that game because that's the game I just really cut my teeth on. But I'm not getting my hopes up. They would have to really put a lot of work to put rollback in that game. And sadly, Capcom buried that game immediately when Street Fighter 5 came out. They like fucked that game as hard as they could intentionally in order to sell their new game. And they never spoke of that game again. Even though they still show the hype clips in between their Street Fighter 5 matches, which makes me laugh because those clips are actually really hype, like compared to the Street Fighter 5 clips. But I don't have any hopes for that game to get rolled back because they would have to actually want to do it and put resources into that. So Dragon Ball's in that same, deal. So is Exard is like that too. KOF 14 is like that too. That generation before, where they're not really old enough, but they're old but not old enough to put rollback in. And they may never have rollback because even 10 years from now, rebuilding that may take too much. Unless we have insane power in all our consoles and PCs by then, that they do the same strat they did with the what's it called? The older rollback titles that are, the 2D titles. But I don't know how long it would possibly take to get something like that implemented, because we would need some really strong stuff. But it's sad, but those games, they have to deliberately make an attempt to do that and then do it all. And the only company that's ever did something like that is NetherRealm. And, as much as I don't really care for Mortal Kombat, it's the best fighting game for a casual player you can imagine, because it has everything to do, and there's nothing stopping someone from liking the game other than the gameplay itself. Once you've eliminated all the barriers and the only thing that's left for someone not to like is the gameplay, then you can focus on that. Then you have a good product, because at that point it's just a matter of taste. We're not even at the taste part. You can't even get a taste of these games, truly, because there's so much bullshit in the way for casual players to even begin to enjoy these games. And the only people left are masochists. But, Dragon Ball's, that's where Dragon Ball's at, sadly. And I don't know what their future is. Obviously, if they're just like any other these fighting games, there'll be a scene for it. Maybe someone will play Parsec for them, and they'll have a Discord where they all talk to each other, and they can still play each other at events now that we're coming out of COVID. They'll still be around. There's no reason for it not to be around. It'll just the natural progression of fighting games that cannot be played online. It's a sad state. We fighting gamers are just fucked. we have a lot of games we have to put behind us and not look back, unless we go to events. We get to enjoy the game for a little bit and then go back home. But like true enjoyment, not the toleration, not tolerating to just get a taste, It's like the biggest story of all to me in this entire. I put a bunch of talking points, and I think the biggest story is actually Skullgirls. I can't believe they're getting support after so long. That game has been through so much. Not even related to the gameplay or anything. It's been through a lot. And then the gameplay itself has been through a lot. Like, Skullgirls has been through trials and tribulations. And I think they got the money for an update through the gacha game, which was popular. And now I think it's funny. That's actually a really smart way to get money for your fighting game. No one wants to play. I'm not talking about Skullgirls particularly. I'm talking about all fighting games. If you make a gacha game and it becomes popular, those people, you can use that money to fund the fighting game that no one is currently wanting to play because the online is so bad, right? Or is desolate. So this money you get from the gacha that maybe people don't care about unless you're horny. And you take that money, put it in a fighting game, update it that way. It makes perfect sense. Like, it's such a good idea. So even though this may cause a resurgence of Skullgirls, but this is good for all fighting games. Like, I don't want to play that fighting game. There's no new content. The net play is trash. Well, guess what? We took the money from the Samurai Showdown gacha game and we put it in the Samurai Showdown. Now we can afford rollback and a new season pass. And people are like, well, what? I'm kind of interested. I saw you just added that new swan girl with the giant titties. Yeah, I'm totally in. I rolled her on my gacha game. I want to play that game. It's like, it just seems like a perfect idea. Because it's like the gacha games prey upon addiction, and then maybe it's just enough to get people to play fighting games. But Skullgirls getting a season almost it gives me a lot of hope for the future of fighting games, mainly because there's a market for the gacha games where people love the fighting game characters, and maybe they don't want to like play the last fighting game because it's practically like it's very difficult to enjoy it. So maybe they'll spend money on a gacha game, and then they'll use the money to improve the fighting game. It's just a really good idea. It just seems like a great idea to reinvigorate these fighting games. Now, will it work for every fighting game? Maybe not, but I think there's a really good market for that kind of stuff, and I think it's almost like the future on how to fund your fighting games that people may or may not want to play. The good news is, though, when I say may or may not want to play, I'm telling you it's not because of the gameplay or anything. I'm talking about like they don't want to play because the netcode is trash, or there's like no one online, or it's hard to find people online. They can spend money on a new season pass, and or updated net play so it actually works. And then with the new content plus the net play, it'll reinvigorate the fighting game. It just makes sense. It just makes a lot of sense. Hopefully, this is like a tactic. Because I'm 90% sure that SNK gotcha game I see every now and then probably funded a good chunk of Samurai Showdown's last season pass. Because there's no way they made extra money off of that game. And then it probably funded a little bit of the new King of Fighters as well. Because a lot of stuff funded that Samurai Showdown game, including Google, if I remember correctly. Because they had they put it on the console. I think they were just paying people for that. So it would make sense if that's how they got money. Because the gacha game for King of Fighters is pretty popular. Or it's not just King of Fighters, right? It's just like a SNK gacha game. I never played it, but I know a lot of people do play it. So it just makes perfect sense. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all the current events for fighting games, I believe. You know, the whole rollback discussion was pretty big. And it kind of, I think Strive is really the catalyst to all this because it did such a good job. And it's in a game that no one would have believed to ever have good netcode. And then on top of that, the game looks great. So it's actually, like, Strive is technically looming over SNK, like, not even SNK, all these other fighting games. Because it has a more complete package out the gate than all these other fighting games. It's going to be playable at launch. Because we already know it's playable. It's gross. It was gross in the beta. The rollback was gross in the beta. So it should be great on launch. As opposed to like Street Fighter V where the beta was horrible. And we just had to tolerate it being incomplete for a long time. Or like Tekken 7 coming out and we're stuck with this fucking UI from like 2010. You gotta fucking get ready for the next battle every 10 seconds. Still gotta do that shit. Dragon Ball's this shitty fucking lobby system. Like Samurai Showdown's shitty lobby system. Like fucking shitty net play. Strive coming out with great net play, looking amazing, and then we know Guilty Gear. We know ArcSys gives a story mode for Guilty Gear. It's just watching it, so we know that's covered, and we know they can make a tutorial because they're Exard. So there's nothing really to worry about with Strive. We just at that point we're just left with, am I gonna like it? And that's up for you to digest after a month. When the only hurdle is, am I gonna like it? Then you got yourself a good ass fighting game. These other fighting games, they could be fucking, I don't know, filet mignon. But if the filet mignon is fucking like I said before, hovering over the lava pit in the thorny cage, I might pass up on the filet mignon. Like, why do I have to jump through hoops over a lava pit to even have a taste? When I could have filet mignon served to me on a fucking plate, possibly. Like, I don't know if Strive is gonna be that great, but the fact that it can be served to me on a plate is very fucking, you know, it's a nice feeling for once, because we've been damn fighting this shit for forever. But that's it. I guess that's really all I had to say about these fighting games. I'll have to find some more topics to talk about next week, but for the most part, that's pretty much all I had to say about this. It's been a while since I've talked about anything. I had a nice little info dump for y'all on my opinions, and I don't really say too much on the internet. Y'all probably saw me squabble with a couple of SNK guys, and you know I don't have a filter, so, and I also don't play favorites, these companies. So I'm sorry if y'all had to see that. Y'all to watch me just fucking come at these guys. But that's all I had to say about this. And hopefully the next podcast I'll have more to talk about fighting game wise. If not, I'll find something to talk about, or maybe I'll have a guest on or something. But it was nice doing this again, and I'll catch y'all next time. Maybe Wednesday. I'll let y'all know.